Hello, Restoration Church family. It's Katie and Kurt, and we miss you. We are thinking about you. In fact, we just paused and prayed for you and wanted to share a quick update with you. Believe it or not, we have been meeting online now as Restoration Church for 10 weeks, which is crazy to think that we've actually gathered online more as Restoration Church than we have in person in 2020. It has been such a crazy year, to say the least. But also, we wanted to lean into this current moment where we find ourselves. In fact, last Friday, the President shared that houses of worship are to be opened, and that may have caused questions in your mind of, why are we still meeting online? Let's get back to gathering in the building. In fact, even before that, many of you know that we have started crafting plans about reopening. We actually even created a Restoration Church community survey and invited you all to share some incredibly helpful information with us that has been so helpful in making some of these decisions. And hopefully you were able to fill it out. If you haven't, you still can. We would love to hear from you. If you just go to restorationchurchsd.com, we would love to hear from you on that community survey.
Yeah, and as we've shared, as we are paying attention and listening to the CDC, San Diego County, State of California, and even our federal government, as they are creating guidelines for the safest and healthiest way for people to re-engage in different aspects of our economy and our society, and obviously larger public gatherings, which our church falls into that category. It's really important to do this in a way that actually listens to their leadership and follows their guidelines. And this is for a couple of very specific reasons that we want you to know. The first thing is that church has never really been about a building. It's always been about people. And this moment is such an important example of that. As we've gone online, we've actually seen our engagement expand in some beautiful ways. People like Audrey in Washington, Abby in Iowa, Tammy and Aaron in Denver, and Nancy in Illinois, Rich and Cheryl up in Northern California, and Sarah, who is watching while deployed in Guam. Our church is actually expanding in beautiful and profound ways, not just viewing a gathering, but engaging and praying and giving and serving. And this is all happening without us gathering in the building. And we love that and honor you, Restoration Church, for how it is that you are representing Jesus to people. The second thing is that we really value our Sunday experience. We put a lot of time and energy into crafting really engaging and inspiring moments. And if we're honest, the necessary safety precautions, as important as they are, would really limit that experience. So we might show up and not actually get what we were envisioning that we wanted. And so what we're going to do is we're going to try to create and continue to create great content that you can experience online while simultaneously creating smaller, safe, wise, and legal ways for us to gather in smaller groups for community and connection.
Yeah, so we wanted to share with you about what some of our plans are for these upcoming months as we head into summer as Restoration Church. You see, we hold these plans loosely. We know that as we're following, especially these next 21 days, we want to share these plans with you, but we also know things might be subject to change as new data comes online for us. So for the month of June, as Kurt said, we're going to continue to meet online at Restoration Church, but we also want to have some drive-through in-person experiences at our building on site, where we'll still be able to enjoy things like communion together, have some space for care and prayer. In fact, in June, we're actually even going to have an upgrade parade to celebrate all of our kids in Restoration Kids moving up to the next grade. And then that next week, we're going to celebrate Father's Day together with a restored car show. Isn't that awesome? Restoration Church, Father's Day, we want to celebrate all you dads and honor you for the amazing work and the ways that you love your kids. And then in July, we're going to encourage you, as many of you are probably longing for having that in-person community feel, we're going to be doing something cool and awesome called house churches. So we're going to encourage you to meet in groups of 10 to watch the gathering together and then have some space for discussion and connection and community after that. that as well. We're also going to be doing something that I'm very excited about that has come really from hearing how much feedback we've gotten from those of you who are desiring just some space to process. So we're going to be doing something called restoration retreats, where we're going to have smaller numbers, about 10 people that will come together for some time just to hear from God, to process all of what quarantine has been like, to actually invite God to heal and to speak to us and to imagine with eyes of faith of what this future season is going to look like. And so we're excited. We're going to be sharing more opportunities of how you can sign up and get involved, more of those details for June and July. And then moving into August, this is when we're discerning that it's probably going to be a safe time to start gathering in our building again. Obviously, with social distancing, safety protocols in place, for many of you, that might mean, looking a little bit differently. We're going to probably need to do 2 gatherings to allow for our capacity to shift a little bit. So whether that's 9 or 11, whichever time will work for you. We're also going to ask for you to be RSVPing to those times so that we can be tracking and engaging when we're at capacity or not. This also in August might look a little bit differently depending on where we're at with volunteers, depending on how many of you are going to want to be jumping back into serving roles, but most likely we will still have family units sitting together. We might not be fully opening up Restoration Kids quite yet, just given some of the safety precautions and how limited that would have to be in terms of numbers and usage. So we want to encourage you with that. There are some phases as we look forward to what that is going to look like for our church community. We also are going to want you to be involved in whatever way feels safe to you and right for you and for your family. So Kurt's going to share a little bit more about how that could look for you.
And this is really important, right? Because ultimately the question has never been what's legal and let's jump to it. The Apostle Paul actually encourages the early churches to actually pay attention to what the opinion of outsiders is in how we make our decisions and live our life. Because what's legal has never been the goal. What's wise and safe and actually honoring to the gospel has actually been the goal. And so for us, this is not a time for us to want to jump and be the first back, right? There's lots of places that we love to be, lead in the way and be innovative, but in some ways, leading the way in this season looks like being extra precautious and extra, care-filled, so that as others that not yet are following Jesus see how we act as a church and decisions that we make, that they might actually be inspired to love and follow Jesus and not turned away by us really wanting to get back together because that's what we want, right? So all I have to say, there's 4 very simple but very, very important ways we want to invite you to participate with us. The first is to pray with us. This is not a throwaway. We actually believe that our hearts are changed and the heart of God is moved when we pray. Our empathy for others goes up. Our compassion, our flexibility all increases. Our humility increases when we pray. So we want to be a church that leans into prayer in this time, not just for ourselves, but for our city and for God to really clearly lead us together in unity as an organization and as a community. The second thing I want to ask you to do is to serve with us. Find a way to kind of contribute and build this with us as we step into reopening. As Katie said, there's going to be some very familiar ways that you can serve, and there's also going to be a brand new set of teams that are going to need brand new volunteers as we step into this new season. One of the beautiful things that we have actually gained from this challenging season in quarantine is new ways to do ministry that reaches farther. That these are things we're going to want to keep and sustain and that be a part of our model moving forward. And so there's actually going to be some incredible ways to serve in really profound, meaningful ways that actually are entirely socially distanced. If that is something that is important to you, you can be an online chat host, you could be an online prayer team, leader. You could, step into any of these spaces as we continue to create great online content as well as move towards in-person experiences. The third thing I want to invite you to do is to sacrifice with us. The church doesn't make it through anything like this without the sacrifices of the people. This is not something that we as leaders or even our staff can do on our own. This takes all of us. And we've said from the very beginning of this year, not knowing all that 2020 would have in store, is that we want Restoration Church to be a community not built on the gifts of a few, but on the sacrifices of many. And then lastly is to share with other people what God is doing in your life and through this church, whether that's on social media, inviting someone to your home when you feel comfortable to do that in July, perhaps with our home churches, whether that is sharing content with a family member that might be struggling or a friend that you know really just needs some hope right now. Using this opportunity to share the hope we have in Jesus is one of the most profound ways that we can actually be better because of this crazy season that we walked through together. And so if you have any questions, obviously you can always reach out to us. You can find all this information as well on our website. You can find new ways to give or to join some of these new teams on our teams page. But we just want to tell you, again, we're in our home, you're in your home, we miss you, but we want to come back together and we can actually do the gatherings that we love and that we've called home at Restoration Church. And until then, we're going to be creative and we're going to find ways. So we would encourage you, engage. Don't let this season be something that slips your soul into apathy. Step in. It's new. We're going to experiment and learn together. But even starting, like I said, in June, we're going to have some ways to connect in safe ways, and we'd love your help to do that, and we'd love to see you. And so if you have any questions, you can reach out, let us know. You can email hello@restorationchurchsd.com or visit restorationchurchsd.com for all that information as well. But we hope to see you again this Sunday online as we gather together and worship Jesus together as a community and continue to find new ways to do that. So we love you. We're so grateful for you. Thanks for watching this video, and we'll see you soon.